What's happening, everybody? Jukebox Ginger in the house. Got my co-host Brofiki with me. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm great, dude. Thank you so much. Another episode. I'm ready.
Another episode in the lounge, and
In the
with
lounge.
us is none other than John. How do you do your last name? Because I kept like mispronouncing it.
So it's Zirkel, Zirkel.
Zirkel.
Chances are you may have seen an additional last name because legally I have two, but I just go by the one.
So your middle name, you have two middle names, correct? Is it Christopher Russo?
So Christopher, and then Russo is my second last name. So I have two is Russo and Zirkel, but to make it easier on people, I just cut it to Zirkel.
Makes sense. That makes complete sense. So how did that come about? Like the story behind the four names.
So my mom's last name is Russo. My dad's last name is Zirkel. When I was born, my mom was involved in acting and wanted us to get involved as well. So she kept her maiden name for that.
Right.
And then back then in New York, a lot of times they would call auditions in alphabetical order. So she tagged her last name onto the other one so that we came up first in the list before Zirkel, because that's dead last.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just sounds like a cluster.
Yeah. Hey, I guess it worked. That's all I know.
Yeah. So I was looking at your IMDb a little bit. I'm guessing it's not updated because you're not in Jersey right now.
No, I'm not in Jersey anymore. Moved out to LA, obviously, for music, like most people. But I do miss it. I may not be in Jersey, but I'm still a Jersey boy at heart. So
right.
I'm glad to be here, but I also miss there.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I've traveled a lot, and there's where you grow up, you're always gonna miss a little bit of it.
Yep.
Marcy wants to say, hey, they said they found you, so
there we go.
Marcy Mouse.
Right
on. So you were pretty young when you asked for a guitar. So I'm guessing, did you come from like a very musical background?
Nope.
Oh,
so neither of my parents play instruments. They've both tried. They've both failed. But when we were very young, my dad and mom always took us to concerts. So being from New Jersey, my first concert, I was like 4 years old, was Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, wow.
I've seen him live.
Saw Bruce Springsteen like 3 more times after that. I saw Kiss a few times. So it was always something I saw as, at least at that age, wow, that's, cool. I want to be able to do that. So asked for a guitar, got a guitar when I was 6 or 7 years old for Christmas, started learning how to play. My hands were way too small, so it was difficult. Then we moved, so I put it down. And my brother had been playing drums. So I was like, oh, I want to play drums too. And my mom said, I got you this guitar. We paid for it. You're going to learn guitar before you learn anything else. So thankfully, they kind of pushed me back into guitar when I was like 12 or something like that. And here we are today.
That's awesome. See, I've never been musically talented.
Hey, you just gotta learn.
Either.
Yeah, I can't sing either. Nope. So I just listen to death metal because it's easier to just
I tell you what, if I didn't know how to play an instrument, knowing how hard, like I see people struggling learning it when they're older, I don't know if I would pick it up now, but thank God I learned it when I was younger. I do wish I practiced a little bit more though. I started focusing more on writing. So while I always wanted to be a shredder, I'm just not there.
What were you going to say, Jesse?
I was a choir kid in high school, honestly. And I can sing as good as a single dad in the shower and in the car as I possibly can.
There you go.
I'm very good at, butchering some notes, but I try. I try really hard.
That's all that's why
I enjoy going to concerts, because you guys can sing as loud as you want to with the amps, and I can sing, and no one can hear me singing. And so, that works out for me. I think I actually had a cover band in high school, and we played a couple of songs, and that's about as much as I could play. The Quiet Things That No One Knows by Brand New on the bass and on the chord guitar, whatever. I don't even know what you call that. So, but that's about it.
The 4-chord guitar. Yeah, that's the bass.
4 chords good to go. And then I didn't realize that in the chorus there were 2 singers for like 10 years. So I would take a very deep breath in and try to hit every single word. I'm like, how does he do this?
Yeah.
You know, I've always wanted to learn the saxophone, but I've never had the energy to do it.
I
But I
tried
love
to
the sound
a
of it.
bit. I couldn't get the whole breathing different thing down. I would love to learn violin though, because I think that's an instrument that a lot of artists use but don't actually play themselves. Like everything has
That makes
strings.
me think of Yellow Card.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They have a violin.
They have a violinist live. He's great. I saw them live twice, and yeah, he kills it. He rocks out more than most guitarists I know.
Have you heard of Josh Vietti?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's all instrumental, but his violin skills are impressive.
Yeah. And then there's the girl in I'm missing her name, Skillet, who plays violin too.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know her name. I know bands. I have a hard time with names of band members.
I have a hard time with song names now. There's records I've been listening to since high school, and I cannot tell you the names of the songs on them, but I know I like them.
You know,
even like bands that I'm super into, like A Day to Remember. You ask like I can name the stuff off of, you know, with like If It Means a Lot to You in that record, but the ones after that I just listen to. You know, I know Second Suck, Sticks and Bricks and all that, but yeah, not a good memory.
I think
this would be the first question I have then, just on this topic. Like, what are you listening to right now? Like, what are your like top 5 repeat songs, or like what are your go-to every day? Like in the car? Shower, what are you listening to?
Right now, I'm trying to find more newer music. I noticed for a while there, I kind of got stuck just listening to what I like.
Okay.
So things like the new State Champs record, Water Parks, a lot of great like up and coming female pop punk artists coming out. Kind of had to break away from that 2000s emo music I was listening to too much of. You start to get stale in your writing if you don't advance. So yeah, a lot more pop punk, but then, you know, I do love From First to Last and, you know, a little more angry stuff, of course.
Oh yeah. What is there a genre that you like that isn't really a popular genre anymore?
I would say grunge, and the reason I would say that, because while it seems like it's popular, I feel like a lot of people just use the term grunge, and no one's like really listening to like Alice in Chains and Stone Temple Pilots and you know, Mudhoney and things like that. So
yeah,
while it's a genre that is relevant, at least in the pop culture, how people want to look clothing wise, I think that genre as sound is kind of overlooked now.
Yes. Like, how old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, so you're like the end of the age group now that actually still remembers what grunge is.
Yes. So Alice in Chains, despite what we play, is my favorite band of all time. I've seen them 4 times in concert. Sadly, not with Lane, but the last one was with Korn and Under Oath, and that was a sick show.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
I've seen Korn a few times. I've not seen Under Oath. I do like him. I've never seen him though.
Yeah,
oh man, Under Oath just came to Utah.
The only thing was when we saw them, it was when they came out with like their latest record, and they were having like different problems with their beliefs, and so they didn't play any old songs except 2. They pretty much just played the most recent record. So if you really wanted to hear those songs, you didn't.
Yeah, I saw Van Halen live with Kool and the Gang, but it wasn't the all the original members. And you know, the singer used to just jump around, do flips on stage, and now he was basically just shuffling his feet and holding the mic. That's all he was doing.
And don't they also like they don't sing each other's songs, the 2 singers?
Yeah,
that's what I saw when Anthony Green rejoined Seosin. They didn't do any of the Cove Reber songs. They just did their 7 songs from MySpace and 2 new ones. That was it. 9 songs. They were off the stage.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just met Anthony Green. Actually.
But it's interesting. Seosin and Dead American, which is Cove's new band, are on tour right now, and I think that's kind of odd.
That is.
He posted a thing about it. It was just like a post, and it said, "Well, this is happening."
So I have a story for you, real quick, about this.
Is it the one that I was there for?
Yep.
Well, I haven't heard it. Bring it on.
Oh, this is bad. This is bad. So, Red Jumpsuit comes through, and Wildfires is there, and so is Dead American. It's the first time I even heard what Dead American was or who it was.
Mhm.
And John introduced me to John Roman, who was doing your merch at the time. And John Roman was playing the drums for Dead American, I believe, on that tour.
Yep.
So this is back in like December. It was the middle of December of last year. And I'm like, sweet. I already did photos for Red Jumpsuit. You know, I became friends with John Espy, and then I got John from Wildfires, and I made John Roman. I'm like, we're John Cubed over here. Like, of course I got to meet you guys. And he's wearing a flannel shirt. I'm like, you're super cool. I like it. Let's go meet these guys. So I'm outside, and this girl is crying at the Metro Music Hall. And I'm like, hey, dude, like, are you okay? Like, what happened? You know, whatever. And Cove walks up, and we're talking. And I'm like, hey, I'm Jay. He's like, hey, I'm Cove. And I'm like, oh, that's an odd name. I'm like, the only Cove I know is Cove Reber with a B. I even butchered it. And I said, yeah, and he's the lead singer of Seosin, and he'll never be Anthony Green. And he's like, it's Cove Reber and Reaver, and that's me. I'm like, no, it's not. And I was kind of intoxicated at the time. You know, I had a few drinks. I was done working. And he pulls out his ID and shows me his ID. He's like, I am Cove from Seosin. And I'm like, I'm just messing with you, man. I know who you were. I did not.
Oh, God. He's frozen now.
Yeah, he's frozen. He'll probably pop off and back on.
The worst story for him to end on.
You can finish it for him.
No, he called. He tried backtracking after he screwed up his name, and then he came to me after. He's like, "Oh, dude, I just made the worst mistake. I love Seosin, and I didn't think it was actually him, and I was trying to make a joke, and then I realized it was actually him, and I was like, yeah, you're screwed."
Are you back?
I did come talk to you about that. I'm like, yeah, I had no idea what happened. But then I went. So then Anthony Green came May 30th through Metro Music Hall, and I talked to him after the show about it, and he just laughed. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I love your Seosin stuff, but I had a really hard time with Cirque du Survive. But like, I love your stuff now, and I just gave him a hug, and it was just a cool thing. And I'm like, isn't it weird that I've liked Seosin since like 2003? Like, I had a burned EP, like CD before they even had EPs. And I'm like, I have your oldest stuff on this CD. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, like, I know these. Do you remember Autumn Roads in Maricopa? Like, that was my brother-in-law's band. And they like, you guys met each other way back when. And I'm like, yeah, it was just like super cool. I'm like nostalgic. Like, I got to meet both these guys. And then I just learned real quick, like, maybe do your research on the bands that are coming through that you're going to take photos of moving forward. But yeah, seriously though, when John came in with Dead American this last time, he was sick. And that was like, and it was right after he got hospitalized on the tour. And so I went and grabbed him a bunch of cold medicine and stuff and took it down to the venue. I'm like, what do you need, man? I got you. Like, are you hungry? Like, took him like cough syrup and stuff. And so they were super cool. I got to sit on stage the whole show and got some of the sickest photos ever. And it was great. So
nice.
Even though I botched it, Cove like still hooked me up. It's great.
I do, before we get too ahead of it, mention you mentioned Bruce Springsteen.
Yes.
And when I was listening to Reverse Order, I actually kind of heard a Bruce Springsteen kind of sound to it. It definitely had that American rock feel.
Yeah, there's one song specifically that I remember writing in college. You found the old band. Look at that.
I do my research. Jesse, I told him, I was like, whoever comes on, I do my research.
So yeah, there was one song that was specifically off. It was, I don't want to say modeled after, but strongly inspired by a song, Fire, off of Born to Run, which, you know, is just like that more kind of folk rock sound. So the thing with that band is we were young and we were struggling with what we truly wanted to sound like. And that's one of the reasons we kind of dissolved it, is because, you know, going through high school and even younger and older, we didn't know, we liked pop punk. And then we're like, oh no, this song's really cool. Let's write a record like this and this. And it just got super convoluted that way. But yeah, so you'll hear a lot of different influences at that time.
Yeah, it's and the piano in it. I love the piano sound in it too. Which again, like you almost had that pop punk like vocal sound with that American rocks, you know, background.
I feel like the song you must have heard was Everything Beautiful, because that's like the real piano kind of one, but you figured it out. So
way to go, just bringing up the past, Jukebox.
Hey, that's what we do here, man. We learn about the artists. So okay, so that was with your brother, correct?
Yes.
And was it that the band and the groomsmen, or was that just you?
So that was just me. That was that was an exciting moment because that's like the first time that movie I landed a role that was good. And the guy who plays my dad is Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies. He plays Ghostface in like the first Scream movie. So it was really cool to meet him. And in that movie, it's like we were rehearsing. It was me and my fake brother and him. We were practicing a song, and it was like some 80s Loverboy song, but it was supposed to be Foreigner, which obviously people don't know that. So we had learned it. We practiced it. We were ready to go. And they're like, hey, we can't get, the licensing for it cheap enough. So we're going to have to do this song instead. But it was fun. It was a cool experience. I think it was one of Brittany Murphy's last movies. And it was very casual, that set, which was nice.
Right. Yeah. And Brittany Murphy. Yeah. I mean, she had a lot of good films, actually.
Yeah. She did. Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
You were also very young. Like you got a casting role very young. And you were in Jersey. So how'd that happen?
So, New York obviously is another big hub. The main difference between New York and LA is LA, everyone will see you and tell you you're great, but they'll lie to you about that. In New York, you don't get in the door at many places. And when you do, they're going to be brutally honest. Mm-hmm. So I was acting in New York at the time, and I do wish I stuck with it. My mom, like I had said earlier, got us into it, and we did a lot of extra roles, and we just keep going and going and going. But I lived like an hour and a half away from the city, so I got burnt out really quick at a young age. Mm-hmm. And when I had the opportunity to choose music or film, I kind of just like butchered my last audition with my agent because I was stupid. I was 17, and I wish I didn't. I'd love to get back into it at some point, but at the time and even now, music was my passion, so that's what I chose to go with.
I mean, you made a pretty successful career off of it, so.
Yes, I guess so. I'm having fun, so that's what matters.
I got to see you a couple times.
Yeah, I do want to share this real quick.
I just saw that pop up.
Where do you think the music industry is headed, especially with bands using backing tracks? So it's disingenuous, and if you can't play them, no.
I think it's there's two sides to the issue there. I think certain bands should be able to accomplish this. Like if you're a punk band and you're just two guitars, bass, drums, vocals, you shouldn't need a backing track if there's no other instruments. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, if you're writing, say music like 9 Inch Nails, he has 9 members on stage. A small band can't pay 9 people to be up there. So I think a lot of it has to do with what people can afford, who they can get, especially now since, COVID kind of just crashed the whole music market.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think a lot of times for us, we only have 3 people going out on the tour because just finding someone who could leave a job for 3 weeks is impossible.
Right.
So I think it's more or less just has to do with the level of artist and preference. I like a lot of the music that's coming out now. What I especially like is that genres are merging.
Yes.
You'll see, people at a super heavy metal show or something like I saw Architects a few years ago, and then I saw those same people at like a pop punk concert, a year later. Right. So that I really do enjoy. And I think, it's a performance. You just got to put on a show for the fans. If the fans enjoy it, that's what matters.
Yeah. There's got, and the thrill and the rush from that experience of the fans being happy.
Yeah. If anything, I'd say whatever you are going to play it well. If you have to do other things, you have to do other things. I agree with Steven. Backing tracks keep you super tight, especially for the drummer. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, even if we don't have a track playing, we do have a click, just because it's just the music that's out now has become so perfect by computers and timing. If you can't get that perfect live, people will notice.
Yeah.
Even me, and it sucks. I'll see a band, I'm like, this band's great, but that kick was like 1 beat at a time.
Well, yeah, you probably notice those things. Being an artist.
Yeah, it's like when I went to a trade school for high school, and I took communications, and when they taught us about different camera angles and screen shots and things like that, the next year when I was watching movies, everything was like, oh, that's an extreme close up. Oh, that was a great pan. Oh man, that was a good zoom out. And it's like you couldn't enjoy it because you were just like focused on the tech behind it.
Yeah, I can relate to that. After working so many shows, just with photography or like helping set up or tear down, it took me probably 4 months to acclimate to actually just enjoy a concert where I'm like, let me get my camera, let me take photos. Do you guys need help? Can I help with anything? You know, and so I would say the first concert I actually enjoyed was the Bleachers that just came through here in June. But like the last 3 years, I couldn't. Has that affected you? Can you enjoy shows now?
I of course enjoy shows. If I wouldn't go to them, but I understand what you're saying. A lot of times,
just kind of that mindset of like
I
working
find
it
myself
or like
more or less analyzing everything that's going on, even from an artistic standpoint. Like, okay, why is the crowd reacting to this part of the song? What did he just say, over the mic that made people react? So it's like I'm enjoying it, but I'm still at work you're still because I'm learning while I'm there.
Now you went to college for marketing for the music industry, correct?
So when I started, it was a double major, music industry and marketing. But then we were playing so many shows, I transferred out and I did online school. They didn't have a music program, so I just went business full time. I'm glad I got the degree. At the same time, I haven't really used it, but it's there.
I mean, is there things that you learned in that? First off, Mark Tremonti is guitarist from Alter Bridge, now singing Sinatra songs.
I love Mark Tremonti. I saw Alter Bridge like after their second record came out. I saw Creed twice in one weekend. Hey, if he can sing Sinatra, that's great.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Do you think that doing that as a college degree or going to school for that has affected you negatively at all in your music?
As far as the music, I don't think it's affected me negatively. For all the business things that I do, obviously that helped, starting the show, starting the band. A lot of the things I do is self-run. But I'd say the biggest education I've gotten is just doing it. The TV series I'm working on, the first season, I literally had no idea what I was doing. 4 seasons later, I've kind of figured it out.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we talk about, critiquing and all that stuff, and that's what I did when I first started this podcast. And the more I got into it, the more I realized the critiquing part of this show took away from the genuine aspect of it. So I've gotten more relaxed and more, hey, just let it flow. Yeah. And it's gone a lot better. And so I guess for this aspect of it, it's polar opposite.
Yeah. And I think actually one of the things I learned from being in the small time I spent in the actual music program is I felt like a lot of people who were in that program started becoming, I don't want to say stale, but stagnant in what they were doing. They were kind of just okay doing, open mic nights. They were okay with the prospect of becoming a music teacher. And I was like, I don't want that, I want to actually do something. And nothing wrong with music teachers. Obviously, I took lessons. They're a big part of things, but that's not what my direction was. I didn't want to get out of college and just teach. I wanted to get out of college and do something big. So I think I'm glad that I made the transition over to fully marketing because I may have just been absorbed into that crowd.
Right. I did a culinary school. I did 2
years. That's good.
Yeah. And then, so I left culinary school and had a degree to go do another 4 years. And it was either that or take a sous chef position right off the bat, right out of that 2 year, degree. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the position and roll with it. And I mean, I don't even do that industry anymore, but the on hands definitely has helped me in my resume more than the actual schooling has.
Yeah. So I would agree. What kind of food was your specialty?
I didn't have a specialty. I could I was all about the presentation more than I was about the food had to taste good, but the presentation and the experience of people enjoying the meal you made was awesome to me.
You eat with your eyes first.
Yes. I mean, if it tastes like shit and it looks good, it doesn't matter. They're gonna come back.
That's true, but if it tastes good and it looks good,
presentation is everything. Oh, so would that be equivalent to like having a good stage performance, but not having a good voice on track? Like I've experienced that a few times. Like, your album sucked, but you're amazing live.
or vice versa. I mean, there's
that
bands
happens more often than not.
There's bands I just didn't like care much for on the record when like my brother played them, and then they happened to be opening for another band. And I was like, you know what? I don't listen to them, but their live show is crazy. Like, Coheed and Cambria, great band. A lot of people love them. I never got into them, but I've seen them twice, and both times I've seen them, I'm like, this is a fantastic show. They're amazing.
Same with that.
Let's throw this in there. It says you learn a lot of don'ts in the music business the hard way. He said can't teach you that at school.
Yep.
He is actually Stephen Phillips from the Morning Dish. He actually was in a band. He doesn't do it anymore, but he was Southern rock, kind of country style to it. Great guy. But yes, I've seen Coheed with Trivium and Slipknot, and Trivium blew me away. Slipknot wasn't that great. They were okay.
Lineup. Like genre. I saw them with Taking Back Sunday and The Story So Far. So yours went the other direction. Ooh, I like the question that Daniel just posted. I think if you can, go for it. I mean, I saw the Rolling Stones in high school, which actually no one believes me. Kanye West was the support act. It was Kanye West and the Rolling Stones.
What?
I know. It just at that time it was like his first record. And in my head, I was like, the price range for these two artists and fans buying tickets has got to be like people were seeing Kanye then. I can't believe they're playing Rolling Stones tickets.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were great. You wouldn't even be able to tell, other than how they looked, that they were old. Mick Jagger freaking ran around the whole stage nonstop for 2 hours. I think as long as you can do it and do it well, why stop? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I want to kind of transition to your California life.
Yeah.
Did you start the anti-bullying? Well, I don't remember what it's called, but that
reverse the trend.
Yeah, did you start that before you moved?
Yeah, it was started probably like 4 years before I moved out here. My old band was on a big show, and we had received a lot of unnecessary backlash from people, just comments on the internet. Hey, you suck, you should kill yourself, that type of thing. So we thought, maybe we should put this into like a program for kids and schools to show them that every level of person and every, field gets bullied. So we wanted to be able to connect with kids on a personal level, but also be able to show them no matter, where you are in life, those people exist and how you should handle those situations. So we put together a small bullying suicide prevention program, did it in a few local schools, New Jersey and New York. And then this agency reached out to us and said, hey, do you guys want to really do this over the next 9 months? So for 4 years, we did 700 shows in that 4 years. Wow. Sometimes we were doing 4 shows a day. Wow. And it was just like 3 or 4 of us bringing the equipment, setting up, playing, breaking down. We did things where we were up at 6 a.m. to get to a school to work with the kids, and then we do 2 or 3 shows, then play at a bar from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then do the whole thing over again. So it beat us up quite a bit, just exhaustion. And then we were fortunate enough, Warped Tour had us a part of it as one of their nonprofits. And then at that point, that was right when we moved. We did Warped Tour, we had our own tour, we did the bullying program, and all that together was just like, we need a break. And then that was around right when we decided also to dissolve the former band. The other 2 guys got jobs. I had a part-time job for a while, and then was like, I can't not do music. So I liked it though, because when I started the Wildfires Projekt, I was not necessarily more mature as a person, but more mature in my ideas and the things that I wanted to write about. And after experiencing the whole bullying program and things like that, it kind of refocused exactly what, at least content-wise, the song should be about. There is some variance. There are some things that are more on the pop end. There's some things that are super heavy, but the content is always I don't want to say the same because it's different songs, but in that line of what I've decided to write about.
Right. What does it say? I'm not sorry, but without Kiss, you wouldn't have all the bands we have. Oh. With large shows like Manson. Sorry, I was just trying to read that.
I saw Manson once, and I wasn't even. So I went to Knotfest, and it was supposed to be what I thought was Marilyn Manson and Slipknot. And Slipknot apparently wasn't playing Knotfest in California, so I ended up seeing Rob Zombie. But the Marilyn Manson performance, it was right when he injured himself, so he was in that weird wheelchair thing the whole time. So it was kind of an awkward show. But Rob Zombie crushed it. That's an artist I never would have thought to buy a ticket to, just because I only listened to the few songs. And after I saw that show, I was like, oh my God, there's a reason that he's Rob Zombie. Right. It was one of the best shows I've seen in my entire life.
I've seen him 3 times, and he's never let me down. It's always been a good show.
Yep.
Actually, have you done shows in Kansas City before?
We did. We were there for a show for some reason, and it wasn't like a regular show, so I don't remember it quite.
Warped Tour.
But I know we have played in Kansas City. I believe on the Missouri side, though, not the Kansas side.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of venues here.
I want to say, actually, I have a schedule pulled up right now. We might be there in January.
Ooh.
Yeah, because we're booking a tour. Oh yeah. It looks like we're gonna have a show at the Record Bar.
Oh yeah, I know where that is.
In January, so
there you go.
I would guess
that whole tour is still in the full confirmation phase, but that one has a green check next to it on our list, so that seems pretty likely.
Awesome.
I can assume you're coming through my city.
Yeah, that's gonna be January 29th.
You got it. I'll be there.
I assume so.
That'll be 3 years in a row.
That will be.
No.
Well, not in a row. Yeah. Because
so 2020 and then not 2021. No,
three touring years in a row because the whole government and COVID.
And that's true. It's January. Years. Okay, yeah.
Saw us, then we couldn't play for 2, and then you saw us right on our pickup.
Yep, I saw you 2020 in February, December 2021, and then this year I haven't, but I will see you January 2023.
Perfect.
Got it. Deal.
I will definitely be there so we can meet up. So.
He puts on a great show, man. I've got some of my favorite photos actually are of this man from both performances.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just so sick. I love that, and just that's a thing too. A lot of artists don't have their own media team, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're relying on the promoters and the actual venue to capture photos. But the thing is, photographers in the industry, they don't have to give the photos to the bands. No. Right? They're paid to take photos but for me, I'm just I'm here because I love music and I love you giving me this experience. So let me give it back to you. So I truly appreciate you always giving me a shout out when I send you stuff. It's been great.
If they're doing it for a press outlet, their person hiring them is not you. It is the media outlet that is sending them there.
Right.
Yeah, but it's always good just having so many different people involved in media in one room, and it all helps each other. You put on a good show, they get good content. They get good content, they promote your good show.
Right.
For sure.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
And it's all about exposure and meeting people, and I mean, if you don't have the voice for it and you're just not a social person, and I get it, but
yeah.
When COVID hit, that's when I started this because I just, I love talking to people. And honestly, it was just for jokes. And I did a couple by myself. And then somebody said, hey, have guests on. And then I was addicted.
Hey, well, here we are. So it seems to be going well.
Yeah.
Ironically for me, my first concert that I photographed was when I met you in 2020. Nice. When you guys opened with Red Jumpsuit, but then the next one I had scheduled was right after COVID shut everything down. Like, I'm like, I get one, you give me like this awesome part of my life, and I just loved it so much that I'm like, I get to stand on stage with these guys, and it was like a sold out show at the Metro. So
You
just
know,
like,
it
this
was
is
it was the
thing.
same
It's like,
thing
oh,
for us too, because I started
because your album
the
just came out,
band.
right?
What's up?
Your album came out in 2020.
Yeah, so that was it. We finally got like what I would consider a break. You know, Ronnie from the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, we'd worked together on the show, called me up, was like, hey, do you want to do a record together? And I was like, absolutely. Finally, someone in this industry believes in me. We did the record. He's like, hey, you want to go on tour? I'm like, absolutely. Finally, someone in this industry believes in me. We're on tour for like 2 weeks. COVID shuts the damn thing down. So I was like, all right, what the hell is this about? You know, but we made it through, so that's good.
So you talk about touring a lot. Has there been an experience where you toured with a band that you just didn't get along with?
There hasn't been any experiences touring with bands I didn't get along with. Luckily, all the bands we've been on the road, like a full tour, were always great, a lot of fun. You know, Dead American, I Set to Kill, Red Jumpsuit, they're all great people outside of their performance. Back, I'd say on the East Coast, you know, there were some like small band rivalries we had with, you know, other bands that were just local. I don't think any of them are doing anything now. This was a long time ago, but yeah, we always tried to keep it cool though. We never initiated anything. But we were there if somebody did. So
all right. So you have Wildfires Projekt. You also have Sounds of the Underground, correct?
Yes.
And did you start Sounds of the Underground, or did you partner with somebody? How'd that come about?
So I was working at a sketchy production house in LA.
Oh,
good start to the story.
I didn't know they were sketchy at first, but they were sketchy.
Okay.
And when I was working there, I was thinking about, you know, the music industry and how much I really wanted to, you know, I wanted my band to be successful, but there's so many people blocking that from happening in all levels of music. So I figured, okay, I have to do this on my own. I'm working at a production company. There's some way I can make these things meet and also help other artists who are being gatekept. So I had the idea, ran it past a coworker. He's like, this is a great idea. Absolutely do not give it to the company. I was like, all right, that's not helpful. He was saying, and he was right. He's like, they'll ruin it. They'll take apart what you're trying to do, and it won't be that anymore. So I started talking to the people who were working with CBS and all that, and I kind of got this idea out and how I could possibly do it. And the moment I was actually at work making like calls in my spare time, like, hey, you know, do you want to be on the show? And I would email like August Burns Red and all these people. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do something. Do you want to be a part of it? And 99% of people said yes. Then one day, the person who was my direct boss at the work really pissed me off, shot out an email to the whole company, said, hey, this company sucks. I'm quitting. I'm doing this. Left that day, which was the worst way I've ever quit a job. But at the same time, it was just such a bad environment. Like I couldn't wait 2 weeks after making that decision. I just need to get out. So I started it. Some friends and family helped me out with the funds to do it. And we built the show, and we're still building it, but it keeps getting better and better. And, you know, Netflix is going to buy it. They're going to buy it.
It's going to happen. It's happening.
I want to sell it to a streaming service, but still be in charge of creative control to keep the show how it should be.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do. That's awesome.
I mean, there's some new stuff coming out in the woodworks for sure next year for streaming services.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel you got a chance there for sure.
I was talking to Jesse yesterday about the VR, like the Oculus. It's not as meta now, but they have something called Horizons, and all these people can just meet up. And there's like comedy shows. There's live. You can see, like yesterday, they were streaming Death Cab for Cutie live in a room. And I was like, man, I want to turn JG's Lounge into like this online venue and do something like that as well. So, I mean,
I remember I want to say it was 2015. We were working on a record with a guy, Matt Squire, who he like produced the first Panic at the Disco record. He's produced a ton of stuff since then. And he had asked us, he was like, hey, what do you think about virtual concerts? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, people just like hanging out with VR, watching the artist from their living room. And I was like, I guess that sounds cool. He's like, I think this is going to be big. I just invested in it. And look at where we are.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Then the movie Ready Player One came out a couple years ago, and everybody's like, there's no way. And then that's kind of what we're doing now.
Yep. Oh, and my
so, and then COVID
it
started it.
Yeah.
Too.
It's great because there's more opportunities for people to see bands, but it's also bad because if less people go to shows, they're not going to do shows, and it's different being there in person.
Yes,
you know, than
yes.
watching on a screen, and we need enough people to remember that. Which post-COVID, it seems like people are excited as hell, which is great. I mean, When We Were Young is doing amazing things right now. That festival in Vegas, but yeah, it's cool. But I wouldn't want to live in a world where there wasn't actual live music.
Agreed.
Same.
Because you know,
I think it's a good alternative.
From an artist perspective, and an artist performs better no matter what when there's people in the room. So you can give a great show over the internet, but you can give a 10 times better show in person.
The experience behind it too, you know. That's just...
Yeah, and you're there with so many people, you're singing along, you know, you're having a beer, whatever you drink, you know. It's different. I mean, granted, the beer's like $16 now, so I suggest drinking beforehand.
Water's just as expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
My first show was I saw my very first concert, Cypress Hill and Slightly Stupid. And it was outdoors. It was outdoors in like this gated venue. And I mean, it was jam-packed shoulder to shoulder, 110 degrees outside, muggy. I mean, you could, even if you didn't smoke weed, you were high. I mean, even the officers were high. I mean, everything was there's just weed everywhere. I mean, they were passing it out on stage. But I mean, just that experience, like the being there and being in that crowd is you can't get that online.
It's funny you mentioned them passing things out. Now, controversial concert. When I was in high school, I saw the biggest butt rock show, which was Nickelback, 3 Days Grace, and Breaking Benjamin. But there was a point in the concert where Nickelback just had people bring out trays of beer and just hand them out to the audience.
That's awesome.
Right. And at that time, like LimeWire was huge, and they're like, all right, how many of you people just ripped the record and didn't pay for it? And like everyone rose their hands and they're like, we don't fucking care. You're here. I'm like, this is a great time. I was like, I ripped it.
Daniel says it's hard to sell merch too without the shows.
You know, it is because the internet is so saturated with things and so many options to buy. If someone goes to a show, there's 3, 4, 5 bands they could pick from. If they're online shopping, there's every band, every just regular clothing store.
Right.
So yeah, that is a huge part of making money for bands is the merch, and that's on the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how did the Wildfires Projekt become a thing? Like the name, the concept?
Yeah, so it all stems from mental health. So when I first started working on the music, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I had a buddy who's like, hey, I'm getting into recording. Let's try something. And when we were working, I was like, all right, we need a name for this thing. And I was thinking about it for a while, and Wildfires came to my mind. And I was like, you know what, that works, because for someone with mental illness, you know, the smallest thing, the smallest spark could start a wildfire in their mind. And at that time, I was struggling with a lot of anxiety issues. So I was like, all right, cool, Wildfires. That's what it's going to be. Did my research online. There was already like a couple small local bands with that name. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to do that. So I was like, all right, what else can I do? I have this music, and I'm also doing, you know, the anti-bullying thing. So it's a lot more than just a band. So I was like, oh, cool. You know, maybe something like Project Wildfires or something like that. And that was a wildfire relief fund. And then I was like, all right, let's switch it up. Let's do Wildfires Projekt. And I was like, all right, that works, but I can't get that username. So I was like, all right, what if I just pull Linkin Park, change the C in project to a K, and nailed everything. So it was a long little process, but that's how we got to where we are.
See, it's always nice to hear the story on how the name became a thing.
I think that's like one of the hardest parts, like for DJs, even like figuring out what is my name going to be. Like,
yeah, it sticks with you for the rest. I mean, unless you're like Jefferson Starship and Jefferson Airplane, your name is you're stuck with it. I mean, who the hell thought of the Butthole Surfers? Was that like joking
yeah,
around?
that's kind of.
They made
I'm
it
the same way.
Mhm.
Yeah, with my name, it was given to me 12 years ago. And
I mean, wasn't Foo Fighters the same thing? Like it was just meant to be funny, and then it just
Yep, they didn't. I'm pretty sure he does not like the name anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you blow up with it, man. You just gotta go with it.
Well, fun name story is the Bare Naked Ladies. So before they were the big Bare Naked Ladies, they were called Free Beer. So when they would play at bars, it would say Free Beer Thursday night.
That's brilliant.
And then they switched it to Bare Naked Ladies, which was Bare Naked Ladies Friday night.
Same thing, yep.
So they
marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
So Daniel is he's a good friend of mine, and he's a spirit medium. He also has a show called Beyond the Veil. So yeah, I want to throw that in there. So we have a couple songs. Brofiki, did you actually get a little clip?
I tried to, but I couldn't figure it out.
I did.
But I know that you did, because sometimes I have technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm still having some with the internet, which happened last time, but that wasn't just me. It was our. Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play his first, and I'm not gonna say the title of it. We'll talk about it after I play the clip.
All right, sounds good.
Good. All right, let me. This is gonna take me just a second here.
I like it.
Share the screen. Here we go. It should pop right up here.
That was one of my favorites.
Something that you can't try? Is this something that you can't stop? Is this what you want right now?
Okay, that's actually the one I did. Sorry, Brofiki.
It's okay. I was like, wait a minute. What? That was the one you chose.
I'm sorry. That song though, that is a fantastic song.
Yes, yeah, so that was like a kind of a sleeper song. We're writing the record, and then the writer and producer, or co-writer and producer, who happens to be John from Red Jumpsuit, we live in the same town, so we write a lot. Mm-hmm. He had went away on a tour with Jumpsuit, and I was like, this song is great. I have to figure it out. So it was like the last song we finished for the record. It's called In the Calm. Mm-hmm. We definitely experimented a little bit more with different sound textures in this one. And bouncing pop, and then obviously the heavy screams in the middle. This song became our favorite on the road. It was the one that all the bands we were touring with just kept singing night after night on tour, and that's actually why we didn't release this song until after. So we toured in December. You were there. The song got released in February following it. And it was the last one we did a music video to, specifically because of how every person reacted on the tour. It wasn't going to be the next single, but it was because of that. And that was actually cool. We never did a tour before the album came out. And it was nice to see reactions to choose which songs we really should promote to people.
There's got to be some sort of, like, obviously you love when the crowd sings the songs, but if there's another band singing your music, that's got to be a whole nother, like.
That was cool. When John told me the guys on the Jumpsuit bus were just singing the chorus, me and so the guitarist is my buddy Steve. That is my brother in the music video, but we looked at each other and we were like, all right, this is freaking cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was like one of those experiences. You're just like, doesn't seem like much, but it means a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Is there issues? Because I've heard from artists before that when they're shooting the videos, there's almost like a time delay between the actual singing and the audio lapse.
Like when
Depending
they're
on
actually filming, or when they edit it together.
when they're filming it. So like when you have to play the instruments and stuff, sometimes it's off key.
We bring extremely loud speakers. So we hear it. It's actually, when we were filming that, so the studio we were in, there's a bunch of studios in there, and online it says, we can't be sure that your studio is going to be quiet when there's another studio, that type of thing. Someone went to film in the next studio over, and they left like after an hour because we were so loud, and the studio couldn't kick us out because we had already paid for the time. They already knew we were doing a full band thing. So it was loud. And there's parts in that where it's raining, and then we had to hear through the water, and then the drums are as loud as they can be in a big warehouse. So
how fun that had to
make sure we can sing.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I do screw up my words, so I have to go back and tell the editor, like, hey, you edited these parts together right, but I'm not saying those words. So can we pull it from a different take?
Yeah, the overlaying and the editing on that has to be like very tedious.
I'm sure it is. That's why I don't do it. But no, the guy who does all our videos now, he's done every single one except for one. His name's Sean Sweetman. I'll give him a shout out. He also does the show with me. Fantastic guy, very, very talented. Mm-hmm. There's one music video I did edit myself, and it was so we have a song called Wasting Time. Mm-hmm. We released like the worst quality Step Brothers inspired music video for it. And the reason we even did it is because we filmed the video at this studio that had a rain room. The video's no longer up. I didn't like it, so I took it down. Mm-hmm. But it was in a rain room, and when we were there was just black mold like under everywhere, and they like smelled, and I wrote them a thing, and I said, hey, you should probably clean your room. So they gave us like 2 free hours at a studio space. We're like, all right, we got $50, a camera. Let's go buy Step Brothers costumes at Spirit Halloween. Get this shitty camera in this room, 2 hours, just make something. So the quality of actual video is bad, but the somewhat story in it is fantastic. If you're a fan of Step Brothers, there are so many Easter eggs in it. I mean, it's it says Prestige Worldwide is the person who presents it, and then we're drinking blue Powerade in the beginning, and there's one part where there's like a toy helicopter flying around like the Catalina wine mixer.
Oh, that's funny.
And there's a part where my brother like walks behind with a small dinosaur because the dad always talks about how he lost his dinosaur. So it's just like all that shit, and it was fun. But that also just goes to show you don't need a big budget to make something people enjoy.
Yeah. What was the reaction to that? Like the audience reaction to that?
I remember John, my buddy and producer, called me up, and he was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is such a serious song. You just made this ridiculous video to it. But he loved it at the same time. So that's the reaction I wanted.
That's awesome.
Oh, ridiculously funny. You're always going to remember this, but then you take it down.
The stories behind everything is always so amazing. Almost always.
Yes.
All right, let's get into
during COVID. We can only have like 4 people in a room at a time, according to the studio. One of them, we like had to sneak someone in. Like we all went in as a crowd. Then like one less person came out, and then came back in with another person. But like we were just like one extra person. I remember there was a studio next to us. This band or this rap group brought in like 20 people, and the guy's like, yeah, these people aren't allowed. They're like, what do you mean they're not allowed? And he's like, yeah, you can't have that many people in this building. So at least we were just like chill about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's when I was 19.
Put him in the garbage can. We'll roll him in. No one will know. This is a prop.
That was my fiance at the time. What, is she going to give me COVID? No.
When I was 19, I went to a hole-in-the-wall bar, and it was an old man that owned it, and he knew I was underage, but he's like, well, you don't cause any problems.
It's all new,
what happens in Kansas.
Right.
Kansas.
Right. Hey, it was actually a lounge. It was called Shanago's Lounge, and it's still there.
I feel like it's a little easier to get away with stuff like that in the middle of the country than if you're in like LA or New York.
Oh,
Like,
I'm
that
sure.
shit is locked down.
They're all over it.
Yeah.
All right, so I accidentally stole your spotlight on that video. So here is Brofiki's. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get it to pop right up here.
I knew a guy from East Atlanta didn't care about the cameras. Yeah, I came to Hollywood, guess he wanted to write anthems. His record should be crushing, but instead they're doing nothing. Little does he know, the stars are building gold. He's never letting it go, so holding on to hope. All these dreams of paradise, they come here to die.
I'm trying to keep the short clips. I don't want any
really
people
liked
need to go see the whole song. So
You're good. So yeah, that's Paradise. We got another artist, Say We Can Fly, to do a feature on that. That's who you're hearing during that specific verse before the chorus. Which is actually why a lot of those scenes you can't really see what the musicians are doing, because I thought it would be disrespectful to sing his parts in the music video when it was his voice.
right.
But that video has a lot of interesting stuff like that. So in all the music videos for this band, while I'm technically the only real member, they always have my friend Steve playing guitar and my brother playing drums. For this specific video, my brother was not able to make it to the studio. So for somewhat consistency purposes, I actually had those white masks for like 3 years. I was like, I want to do something cool in a music video. I got these masks, which I never used. And when my brother couldn't make it, I was like, this is the time. I'll make them wear masks so no one knows he's missing.
Oh, that's smart.
I didn't want people to see a different drummer and go, okay, what happened to the other guy? Even though, not official members, just play when they can. Most people listening to music don't know the whole story of a band.
Yeah.
So if they saw people changing, it wouldn't look right. So that's why the masks are in there. And the dancer is also my wife's cousin. So it all just kind of came together at this random spot in the grossest area of the Darts District in LA. And it's about being in Hollywood and losing your dreams and everyone who just gets trapped here. And it worked out flawlessly that there was a strip club next to the studio, and we had planned to have someone dancing in the video. So there's a scene in there, which is kind of around what you showed, where we just filmed her literally outside of the strip club and zoomed in on the, where it says Showgirls.
Yes.
And it was just like, this couldn't be more flawless. And I was like, hey, sorry, Caitlin, I made your cousin a stripper, but this worked out beautifully.
He said, do you have a bass player in the band on
So-
your bass tracks?
There is no live bass player, and that is because in all my years of touring, the bass player has always been the person to leave. In my old band, we went through 8 bass players, but like it was always just the bass player. So when I started this band, I was like, you know what? It was just me and my brother at first, and then I was like, I don't think I want to bring on a bass player because that was just trauma from the last band. And the bass, having it tracked, what I like about it is it makes sure the rhythm is always on point. So no matter what, it's always just locked in with the drummer, and that's the most important thing. And then, when you're playing a lot of more punk stuff, when you're trying to get people who aren't as experienced, jumping around and having fun is great, but it's hard to lock in if you're not experienced doing both.
Okay.
That's the main reason I had to learn to play bass for my friends, because they didn't have a bass player and I didn't know how to play anything. And they're like, just strum these 2 things and every 8 seconds switch.
Well, we had a
Like,
bass
what?
player pass out on stage once. We were doing like a 7-day residency at this bar in Florida, and he passed out on stage, and we're like, oh shit. So I played bass, and then the other guy played guitar. So we lost the guitar player. So that's one of the things that's nice. We do have multiple types of tracks. We have ones that are set up for if there's 2 people playing, 3 people playing, 4 people playing.
Okay.
Whatever happens that night, we can cover it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That is good.
So you have your bases covered. Hey, I got dad jokes, man. Just let it be. Good. Just give it to me, all right? I thought that was good.
It's funny because like the repetition, like obviously all artists are different, but like we had Jeremy from Earth Groans on, and he was like a solo project, and he brought his own crew in. Whenever he toured and stuff like that. But he wrote all the songs and everything in the studio. And then whenever he did tours, he just hired people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And generally, I always like to stick with my friends because I know they like doing it and they want to do it. It's just they're not at a point where they have families. They can't just quit a job until it's making, big money. Mm-hmm. So I understand that. And I just accommodate them however I can because it's just more fun for me that way. Mm-hmm. I'd rather be with my friends than a hired gun.
Yeah, somebody you don't really know.
Yeah, because you're sharing hotel rooms.
Well, so
you're staying in bed with someone you want to know.
With John being sick.
What's up?
John Espy played drums for 3 sets the night that he came through Utah, and I'm just like, "Do you need water?"
John Espy was our drummer.
Like you literally just played 3 back-to-back sets. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So sometimes like you rely on your friends you're touring with to kind of like step in, and I'm like,
so
you're amazing
John wrote
and crazy.
All the songs with me. So John wrote all the songs to me. We were going on tour with his band, and he was like, dude, instead of hiring someone, why don't you just like give me a couple bucks and I'll be your drummer? I know everything because we wrote it. And I was like, that's a great idea. That's what we're doing.
Sometimes you just gotta like fill in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you got to pay your friends too. You can't expect people to work for free.
Right. So where are you at now? Like you're getting ready to do another tour. Your season 4 is coming out of Sounds of the Underground.
So we aired 2 episodes, or maybe 3. I'm so many dates in my head right now. We have another one coming out this Thursday with Maggie Lindman, an artist, Heart of Gold, who's from a band Being as an Ocean. There's a band Blood Honey and Hill Blocks View, which are great. Mm-hmm. And then while that's going on, I'm planning the tour that's going to be in January, and somehow have to fit in writing music in between all that. So
it's called being able to multitask.
Yes. Yes. You got to live in the stress.
Did you say Being as an Ocean?
Yeah. So their member Michael has a project now called Heart of Gold. So it's a pop oriented project. So he's on this episode, and he's actually going to be on the tour, which we haven't officially announced yet. So
awesome.
It's going to be a really cool lineup.
So I actually bought a shirt they came through the Metro and played, and it's been my favorite shirt, and I lost it. And it was like the skull with like the orange flowers. Like, this is the coolest shirt, and I like never even heard of these guys. I'm like, these guys are pretty good. But that's the first time I ever heard of it. And then I'm like, this is a great shirt. It was too small for me. They only had a medium. I'm like, I'm gonna make it work.
I did that at a Census Fail concert once. I was like, it's too small. I'm going to make it work. I'm still in shape at this age. I don't care if it's tight. Now, I still have the shirt. It's now 2 sizes.
Yep.
I wear XLs and 2XLs.
I love Census Fail. Yeah.
The main problem is, like, I have broad shoulders, so like button-down shirts, I'll get one that fits, but then I can't like lift. And I'm not muscular in any way, shape, or form, but
just the broad shoulders.
I gotta get bigger clothes.
Right. Yeah. So as we get to the point where we're wrapping up, Jesse, you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, my favorite question to ask is, as you're on tour, the last couple of tours, where do you look forward to going to the most? Like, what venue? And your favorite food on tour, like favorite restaurant? What do you look forward to? Favorite venue? Favorite food?
All right, so my favorite venue since I've started this project, honestly, one of them is Salt Lake, the Metro Music Hall. That place is awesome.
Really?
And
it is
sound
awesome.
is amazing.
Yeah, that's my baby.
The sound is always spot on. His name's Brian, right? Or you've probably seen so many sound guys, but yeah, he's phenomenal. Always great to
Brian
work
and
with.
then Caitlin DJ.
And then it closed down. I don't know if it had to do with COVID. It may have closed down a little before then. There's this venue, Cicero's in St. Louis. And the reason we loved them so much is they were just so chill about everything. Like, we would come through the city and be like, hey, we want to do a show. And they're like, cool, man. If you just want to like give us $200, you can put the show together, put whoever you want on, set the ticket price, keep all the money, and we'll give you pizza. And we're like, absolutely. So we were always like, all right, we're going to St. Louis. We're actually going to make some money and eat some pizza. I think, though, all crowds are great across the board. The thing I've noticed about the Midwest compared to the coasts is because there's not as much for people to do in the Midwest compared to LA and New York, more people are driven to go see new music. You don't have as much competition to deal with everything else going on a Friday night.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Yeah.
It's, Kansas City's, there's flat in every direction, and you got lakes. That's about it,
Yeah. And of course, like, SLC is a city, but when you look at like size comparisons to the big cities, it's just like that big.
I've driven through Salt Lake many times. It's a decent sized city, but it's not. Yeah. I mean, Kansas City is 2 major cities.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, like, LA is a big city, but then you also have Anaheim that's not far away. San Diego's not that far away, so there's just so much. You have Disney right there.
Right.
Universal, Six Flags, like people have shit to do.
Yeah.
But I always come out to the Midwest at least.
Yeah. I will be there January. I plan on it.
You said
January 9th or January 20 something?
It is the 23rd. I'll send a note.
Please do.
I'm like, maybe I'll just jump in your band with us for a week.
Yeah.
Just feed me, I'm pretty.
Oh, there you go.
That's actually a dream of mine. Is to tour with the band for like a week or 2.
Right.
You have?
I'll take it. I'll even feed myself. Just let me.
All right, paid in high fives.
I'm getting paid in high fives and the experience. Yeah.
Go to buy merch. We'll pay you in high fives.
There you go.
Profit margin on that would be great.
I'll sell the merch and take photos. Let's do it. I'll go with you for a week.
We'll give you a cut. We'll give you a tip jar. You can put something funny on it, like just the tip or whatever.
Be like, if you guys want to meet,
You just blanked out that whole time. Whatever you were saying, you froze.
Oh man, no, man. It's all right.
Moments passed.
It was still funny. Well, John, I really want to say thank you for coming on today. I hope you enjoyed it because I know I did.
Oh, I did. Trust me. If I didn't, I would not have spent this much time.
I'm waiting today for somebody to just pop. I'm waiting to
like, sorry guys, I'm out.
I'm waiting for the day for that to happen. Just somebody just bored and they just click leave.
They're like, nope, done.
Well, thanks for having me though. I appreciate it.
Hey, and let's keep in touch. It's this is all about just meeting new people and new bands, big and small. So you have any friends you want to send our way, we'd be more than happy to have them on.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And anyone watching, just Wildfires Projekt is the tag on everything. And let me know if you enjoy it and check it out.
Yeah, I'll put all of your links in the description and everything later. Yep. So
we sure will, and then we'll promote this for you too.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Well, I will see you guys later then.
Yeah, you too. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Peace.